Hi, my name is Michael Elfrick and I'm an IT student here at the Florida State University. And today we're going to be talking about Raspbian for the Raspberry Pi. So what is Raspbian? Raspbian is this wonderful Debian-based image for the Raspberry Pi. It's been made to work with the device since it supports ARM packages and things like that. And it includes a wide suite of different software you can use. It's really great. So that's Raspbian. Some things to know. We're going to have to learn these really quick. So, generally speaking, when you want to work with a Linux system, you're going to work with something called SSH, or terminal. And SSH is called Secure Shell. And the idea behind Secure Shell is it's basically a way to communicate with the computer through command line from another computer, using software such as PuTTY, or Telnet, or SSH, things like that. SSH is available on all Linux distributions, as it's almost like a core part of it in itself. So OpenSSH is the most common. And another thing we need to learn about is what is flashing. Flashing is the idea of taking an image and putting it onto one of these, an SD card. And when you put the image onto the SD card, it then can boot up and install itself. So why would we want to image something rather than doing a fresh install? So that's a great question, and I get asked that sometimes. And this answer is really simple to that. Flashing allows us to load a pre-installed image, and it allows us to also save a bunch of time and prevent ourselves from any issues during the installation process. So it's a lot simpler, and there's a lot less risk involved, and you save a lot of time. So, software we're going to need to install Raspbian onto the Raspberry Pi. We're going to need the Raspbian pre-installed image from raspberrypi.org. You can download that. You'll need to extract it. We're going to need Win32 Disk Imager, and we're going to need a program to extract it, such as 7-zip, WinRAR, or the Windows extractor. This should be a zip file. If it's not, you're going to need WinRAR or 7-zip, or even WinZip, or whatever program you prefer. Some optional software would be SD formatter, but again, you're going to also really need something to flash it, which would be Win32 Disk Imager. So, let's get into it. Let's get to flashing the Raspbian image onto this SD card. So I'm putting the SD card into my computer, into its card reader, and it's going to detect it in a second. It'll pop up with this. Make sure it's an empty SD card and that's been formatted recently. And we're going to launch Win32 Disk Imager. We're going to push yes. And then we're going to make sure that it sees the SD card, which it does. And we're going to click to browse. We're going to go to our desktop. We're going to go to my Raspberry Pi images, and as you can see, we can't see it here, and the reason for that is it needs to be extracted. So we're going to go into here, into our Raspberry Pi images, we're going to right click Raspbian, and press extract. This is going to take just a couple minutes probably. Okay, so the image has been extracted. So now we can go back to Win32 Disk Imager, double click on the folder we just extracted to, and we can double click that name for the file, go to the back, and then we can press write. Now what this is going to do is it's going to overwrite everything on the device, being the SD card. So we've done that, and it's going to begin writing. This is going to take a couple minutes as well. Okay, so the image has been written successfully. We're going to go ahead and press OK. We're going to exit out of Win32 Disk Imager and exit out of this, and we're going to go ahead and remove the SD card. Once we've removed the SD card from the machine, we can plug it into the Raspberry Pi. So here's the Pi, here's the SD card, and we're going to slide it in, just like that. It's all the way in, it's good to go. So now we're going to start plugging it in. So, to do that, we're going to plug in our HDMI cable, our USB cable, our Ethernet cable, and finally we're going to plug in our power cable. Now once you plug in, it will turn on, and we can begin. As you can see, it's turned on and it's working, which is a great sign. So what it's doing is it's booting up for the first time. It'll generally be a little bit quicker than what it's doing right now on its first boot. Alright, so this is the home screen you're going to reach the first time you boot up the Raspberry Pi. and we need to do some things. So the first thing we need to do is expand the file system. So that's the first option. We're going to press enter, and it's going to be really quick. Alright, so the next time we reboot, the SD card will expand the image to the full size of the SD card rather than the 800 megabytes or so that it is by default. So some other things we need to do is we need to go into 8 advanced options, and we need to click on SSH and enable it. SSH again is secure shell, we were talking about earlier. So now the SSH server is enabled. So now once we've done this, we can actually reach this on our computer, which is where we're about to. We could do the rest of this if we wanted to. You could SSH in. There's plenty of guides online for doing that, and it's also in one of my other videos, and it will be in several of my videos as to, you know, SSHing in. So we're going to click finish, and we're going to tell it we'd like to reboot now. And by default, the username and password will be Pi and Raspberry, and we'll talk about that in a second. Alright, so we're at the login screen for the Raspberry Pi. Now, if you wanted to, you can use SSH, which is included in the box and the presentation in case you're trying to learn more about how to actually do this from your machine. But we're going to do it from the Raspberry Pi just to explain it a little bit better. So our username to log in with will be Pi, and the password is Raspberry. Now, once you've logged in, you're going to see this, and you'll see now that if we type in ifconfig, that will give us the IP address should we need it for puttying in. This is really helpful, actually. So, this has been set up for us. We're good to go on that. So the first thing we want to do when we log in is run something called password, and we're going to reset the password for this user account. So we're going to type in sudo passwd pi, and then it's going to ask us for a new password, and we want to put in whatever. I'm going to put workaholic, and it's going to say password updated successfully. So that's how you change the password. So sudo tells it to do it as super user, passwd tells it to change the password, it's just short for password, and pi is the username we want to work with. So we've changed that. So now the password's been updated. After that, we want to go ahead and perform some upgrades and updates. So we're going to do sudo apt-get update, which makes it update repositories. It's just going to pull a bunch of information. You can see all these different repos right here, which are just places where software is stored, and it also tells it where to find sources for things. So it's going to update all these and get all the new information on different packages available. So whenever we would like to do something like upgrade, we can perform it. Alright, so now you can see that it has actually finished, and we're back to being able to put in commands. So we're going to do sudo apt-get upgrade. And what this will do is it will allow us to upgrade all the packages on the machine. So this will take a very long time. It's going to ask you, do you want to continue? You're going to type in Y and press enter, and go grab yourself a cup of coffee or something. This is going to take a bit. Alright, so you can see it's finished. It took about 30 minutes for it to complete this. Even with a good internet connection, it still takes a bit of time due to the slow speed of the Raspberry Pi. It's not as fast as your standard computer, and it can't do as many processes and threads as a regular computer can. So at this point, it'll be done. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it. You can start installing packages like sudo apt-get install zip, something like that, and that will allow you to install different packages. And as you can see, unzip is already installed. Same with things like nano. So nano, powerful text editor. If I type in nano, it pulls up this. I can press Control X to get out. So this is just, you know, a basic overview of how to install Raspbian. There's a million different things you can do out there. I'm not going to be able to cover all of them, unfortunately, but I will be covering a lot. I've already got a video out there on setting up a lamp stack, so if you are interested in setting up a web server, this is a great place to start, because at this point you can now go watch that video and learn how to set up a Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP server. So basically your standard web development area. If you got any questions, feel free to ask me, like, comment, or subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Good luck.